Hi, I'm Mitchell with Milano Music, and today we're going to talk about our first day with the trombone. Before we can play or assemble the trombone, we have to take it out of the case. Now you may notice that with all of our rentals, will be on the same side as a logo for the case manufacturer. This is what you want on the top. On the other side, we don't have our stickers, nor is there any brand information. You want that on the bottom. With this case, we just have two latches, and we open up our trombone. Whenever the trombone is in the case, make sure that the latches are closed. Otherwise, you'll pick it up, and out will come the trombone. Putting it together is pretty simple. We only have three parts. The first one will be our mouthpiece. The second part is our slide. And the third part is our bell section. First, we're going to start by taking the bell section and connecting it to the slide. You may notice that on the slide we have a shorter part and a longer part. The shorter part is the receiver, where the mouthpiece goes. The longer part connects to the bell section. We want to insert and have slightly less than a 90-degree angle. From there, tighten. And last but not least, we have our mouthpiece. Insert it into the shank. Once you have the mouthpiece into the trombone, give it just a little turn to help secure it into place. The parts of the trombone, we're going to start from the mouthpiece and go down. The mouthpiece is made up of a rim, a cup, and a shank. The shank inserts into the receiver. In this big slide, we have two main parts, an inner and an outer slide, and you can probably guess why they're called that. When you're not playing the trombone, make sure that we have the slide lock locked so that it doesn't fall. If it's unlocked so you can play, when you're not playing, it'll do that. Next on the slide we have our spit valve. Condensation from the air that we put into the trombone gathers, and this is the easiest way to empty that. Next, we go on to the bell section, which in this trombone only has two main parts. We have our bell and our tuning slide. While the trombone itself is essentially a giant tuning slide, it's best to always help ourselves out by making sure that the instrument is as in tune as it can be, so that we don't have to change what we do with our slide when we play. Holding the trombone is pretty simple. First, I want you to take your hand and make an L with your left hand. This hand will go as such, with your pointer finger right where the mouthpiece meets the horn on the receiver, your thumb fitting over, and the rest of your fingers filling in to hold it. Watch out, if you have big hands, don't go too far. Otherwise, when you bring the slide in, you'll pinch your fingers. If your left pointer finger is just a little bit shorter than what the trombone may be made for, reaching all the way up to the receiver might be hard for you. If that's the case, it's totally okay to simply put it underneath. We want to avoid straining the hand and making everything harder than it needs to be. With our right hand, there are several different ways to hold the slide. The most important thing is not just grabbing it with your whole fist and moving your arm. You can find what's best for you. Some ways include taking three fingers, like you're going to pinch someone, grabbing the slide, and merely holding it with those three fingers. You can either rest these fingers on top or put them below, whichever is the easiest for you. Once we have our hands set up holding the trombone correctly, we simply want to bring the instrument to us. Always be wary to not hold the trombone and bring yourself to it. Bring the mouthpiece to your face, and if you are standing, stand straight. You don't want to slouch, and there's no need to lean back. Straight and comfortable, not locking your knees. If you're sitting, we still want a straight back, slightly off of the back of the chair, but feet firmly on the ground. If you're a little bit shorter, you may have to move towards the front of the chair. Brass embouchure is fairly simple. If you have your lips as they normally set, the only thing we need to worry about is that our corners are firm and that our lips are free enough to flap with the wind. An easy way to say this and to start forming an embouchure is to say the letter M and then pa, such as po. When we do this, make sure that the corners stay in the same place as when you say M, and the pa is simply to make sure that you don't do this, and swallow your lips. If your lips go inside, they can't vibrate very well, can they? Taking the mouthpiece, there are many different ways to place the mouthpiece on your face, especially depending on your dental structure. A good starting point is to simply think centered and roughly 50-50. Some people prefer a little bit more on top, and if you have an underbite, it may be easier to have a little bit more on bottom. Once we've formed our embouchure and have the mouthpiece on our lips, it's simply a matter of blowing air. If at first you don't get a buzz, all you have to do is think about tightening the blow point just a little bit. This is called the aperture. The aperture is the hole in our embouchure which the air passes through. Firm corners, vibrating lips, and a slowly closing aperture. Next, I would like you to experiment with the tongue position in your mouth, as well as speeding up and slowing down the air, simply to see what we can do different with the buzz. Building from there is what you will do throughout the entirety of your brass playing career. Now that we've buzzed on the mouthpiece, we simply put the mouthpiece into the trombone and apply the concepts we just worked on, bringing the trombone to us and not ourselves to the trombone. Take a deep breath. You might also get several other pitches, including a lower one with slower air, or if you have a little bit faster air, you might get this higher B flat. So you may have noticed that the 3 different notes I just played, I had my slide in the exact same place. Brass instruments are made up of this harmonic series. We only have a certain number of slide positions really available to us, but we can play many different notes with the same slide position. The first note that I played is F in the bass clef. So when you look at that sideways frowning face, it's right in between the 2 dots. The second lower note that I played was the B flat below that. It's on, or it is in, the second line in the bass clef. And the last note that I played was the B flat right on top of the bass clef. The trombone has something that no other instrument has: a slide. And while it may seem like everything is just, there are different specific notes within there. On the slide, we have 7 different positions. All the way in is first. The next, you guessed it, is second. Third is where our finger is just about the bell. However, make sure to not stick your finger and catch the bell, otherwise you're going to hurt yourself. Slightly past the bell is fourth. From here, we get into truly murky waters. Finding 5th, 6th, and 7th is a matter of training your ears and is often a lifelong process for many trombone players. Is 5th. Just past that, and what may be as far as you can comfortably reach, is 6th. And out past, if you look, there is a little notch in the slide. When you go past that, you've gotten to 7th. Don't go too much further though, otherwise you can't play. When we're all done playing for the day, it's time to put the trombone away. First, we need to empty the spit. Next, open the case. Remember, with our logo or the brand on the top. Mouthpiece. We unscrew the bell and slide. And from here, choose your own adventure. We put this bell back in so that it fits snug. And with the slide, if you notice in this case, one end is a little bit wider at the top. We want the spit valve so that it is not being pressed when it's in the case. Otherwise, it could get bent. With that, we're all done and it's time to close the case. Once we close it, remember, latch it up tight. If you have any questions, please give us a call at 480-827-1111.